Again, I'm Shadi. I'm in LR2 Studio, broadcasting live with another Aska segment. Aska is a IG live segment that we do at LR2 Studio where we have different industry professionals come on and we allow you to ask them questions. So it's basically a Q&A with people that you normally wouldn't have everyday access to. We get access to these people and then we give you the access. That's what we do at LR2 Studios. LR2 Studio is a photo rental studio, the #1 studio in the Bronx. We rent studio time, and we also offer workshops, and we offer programs and events like this to help give information to you guys, to get you guys on the way to becoming creative professionals, equipping you with all the tools that you're gonna need to do that in your journey, and building a community. So today we have Jennifer Perlmutter. She's a senior agent at Apostrophe Reps, which is a artist representation. It's an artist representative agency. They represent photographers, directors, stylists, creative artists all across the country. They're doing a lot of dope things and signing up some really talented people that they have on their roster. I always like to look at images, so I have a couple of images from their website that the artists that they represent were a part of. Some of them took the actual photo, and then some were styling or played other parts in the photo. But let's look at some pictures right now, some of the work. And if Jennifer's in here, I'm gonna bring her up in a second and let her introduce herself. Go through some of these images, really fly stuff. I love looking at photos all day. So when I actually started photography, before I started taking pictures, I think I looked at photos every day for like 6 months, just nonstop looking at different books, different magazines. You really want to like develop your aesthetic first. Understanding, you know, why you like images, why certain images work, and that kind of helps inform, you know, your creative process. What's going on, everybody in the room? Also, if you miss this or you have to leave at some point, we're gonna post this video on the LR2 page, so you can kind of jump in and see whatever you missed. If you're here, I don't really need to tell you that. And if you're not here, you're not hearing it anyway, so never mind. So as you can see, they got some really dope artists on their roster. And if Jennifer, are you in here? I'm gonna pull you up in a second. There she is.
Hey,
How's it going?
going well. How you doing?
Good. So guys, just before we start, Jennifer, I'm really excited to have her on here because she's full of really great energy. And when I reached out to her to be on this segment, she was really enthusiastic about it. And in the first couple of minutes that we spoke to each other, I could see how passionate she was about sharing information. And that's something that we really pride ourselves in here at LR2, is sharing the information with people. And she's really eager to do that. And she was very easygoing, humble, and just has a lot of information to share. So I'm gonna let her introduce herself, and then we could kind of jump right into the questions.
Cool. Hi, I'm Jennifer. Everyone calls me JP. I just saw Mr. Bob Stevens join, and that is actually where I got my name, JP. And I've been JP ever since. So everyone in the industry since like 2006 has called me that. I am a senior photo rep at Apostrophe. I've been doing this, pretty much since I graduated college in 2006. Started working for a photographer in LA, moved to New York and worked for a few agencies here. Went on to kind of help co-found a platform called Found Artists, where we did an invite-only, non-exclusive, representation platform, marketing platform for artists. So yeah, I've spent my entire adult life talking to photographers and directors every day. And I don't know, I explained it to you when we first talked. It's like, it's truly an extension of who I am. I love it. I'm lucky to love my career so much, and just get to be part of the growth of so many incredibly talented people.
Yeah. And you're definitely like super busy, so I appreciate you jumping on this live with us and talking to the audience and giving them some of the information because it's it's as a photographer or any type of creative professional, you have all these questions and you're not really sure where to go for the accurate information. There's a lot of information out there, but deciphering through what's actually valid and what's applicable, that's something that I think we miss out on. So it's good to have this access and be able to share this information in this way where they could get it like directly from the source. Um, and with that being said, so I guess we'll just jump straight into questions because we don't want to waste anybody's time. What do you think are the key skills and qualities needed to succeed as a photographer in today's industry?
Just drive and passion. You do need a distinct visual signature. You really, as a photographer, need to identify what it is you want to photograph, and how you want to photograph, and stick with, like, photographers are players with light, so there's it kind of is like a times, because you need to have something that's distinctive, but you want to still be able to play around. But I do think the thing is a cohesive body of work, having a point of view.
Mm-hmm. So, because I know there's a lot of photographers of different things, and I'm not trying to stick to one thing. And I have all these different ideas and all these different visions, and I want to do all of these things. Like, what would you say to those type of people? Sorry.
A good example, like, we have this guy on our roster, Mark Clennon, and Mark does fashion and editorial and documentary, but there is a stylistic look and feel to his work that brings just like a thread through it all. So consistent, it feels very, very cohesive. So I think you can do a lot of things being mindful of your, like, stylistic approach to it.
Right.
Because the one thing I struggle is when I look at a photographer's website, and we'll often use the term, oh, it looks all over the place, because everything just, it looks disjointed by too many different post-production styles, too many different lighting styles, and it kind of loses its voice. So I am looking for something that has, like, a distinct point of view, and a visual signature that I can remember. I can look at and be like, yo, Shadi was the one who photographed that. I know it. Or Kendall Bassett shot that. I can tell. I can look at that lighting style. He's the one who photographed that. And you look at someone like Kendall, who you showed a few images from, and he goes from shooting high fashion to shooting so it really, it can run the gamut of what you can categorically shoot, what vertical you can shoot for. That doesn't matter. But if you have a distinct style, if you have that signature, that visual signature, that's what's going to kind of drive it home.
Right. So yeah, your perspective, your point of view, and the story that you're telling that's probably the one thing that's unique to you. So it is okay to kind of shoot different things and try different types of images, but just try to maintain your perspective and do it. And that's what will connect everything. That's what I'm getting from what you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. What are some Gene London, just make sure that if you have a question, just type it in the questions panel on the bottom right. There's a little question mark in a chat bubble. Type it in there, because that's how we'll be able to access it without having to scroll through all these comments and stuff. But the next question, which I think is one that you would probably want to answer, but what are some common misconceptions that photographers have about working with agents, and like how can they be clarified? Oh, so what are some of the common misconceptions that photographers have about working with photo agents, and how can they be clarified?
Okay, so this is kind of nuanced for me because I was an agent for a while, then I left, I was rep for a while, I left being a rep. And so I saw the benefits of working with a rep versus not working with a rep. And there are people and there are photographers who really, don't necessarily need them, who have a steady flow of work, are able to estimate and negotiate their own jobs or have a studio set up where that's possible. But I think the common misconception is that you get an agent and you're immediately going to get more work. It is so much more nuanced with what we do. We are not just about getting you work. We are your business partners. We are about helping you grow your career. That's everything from what you're testing to how you're building your portfolio, what maybe you're missing. So that's like one big portion is how are we growing your career? How are we protecting your interests? That's a good thing, like with having an agent. But we're not like some magic pill that's like, oh, I have an agent and now I'm going to get jobs. If we believe in your work and, believe that you're, a fit for some of our clients, or we can see how you can fit into the commercial or editorial brand world, we plant seeds. We do the promotional work. We do the marketing work behind the scenes to plant those seeds and hopefully get you in with those clients. But we're just not a magic pill. We're your business partner. It's a strategic partnership that we're meant to like grow and build together. And that's the other thing too, is like, don't let reps tell you it's not on all their terms. Like, photographers need to find a rep that's going to be the best match for them. You have to come to the table equipped with questions for your rep. Like, what kind of clients do you have? How often do you talk to your artists? It's not all about just percentages and commissions and things like that. It's how involved are you in growing my career? At Apostrophe, like, we are very ingrained in the growth of our photographers' careers, like from a very granular level of looking at their stats on our websites and looking at their portfolios and figuring out, what the best verticals to pitch them for. I mean, it's way more than just estimating and negotiating jobs.
Right. Yeah. So I think a common misconception would be that once you find an agency, the work is done. And I feel like what I'm hearing is the work is just beginning at that point. It sounds like there's a lot to do and a lot goes into that. So you really do want to make sure that, like you said, it's a partnership at that point, and you want to make sure that you're with somebody that fits you. Like, you may have the most powerful agency in the world, but they don't necessarily know how to cater to you, and that may not be a good fit. So you have to make sure there's a good fit for both parties.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's take some questions. If you have questions, make sure to put them in the click the icon at the bottom right. There's some questions in here now. Okay.
Hit me.
What's some advice for a photographer just getting into the business? I feel like we kind of answered that a little bit, but maybe throw in one more thing.
Yeah. Just be willing to do a lot of everything. If you're just getting into the business, go assist someone, go talk to other photographers, build your community. We have a great program at Apostrophe called Amplify, and this is our fourth session doing it. And those photographers have just been so instrumental to building a community together post our mentorship program. They are assisting with each other, they're helping each other out. Like, just build your community of people. Like, you want to be on set as much as possible. You want to be networking and meeting people. There is a little bit of a social aspect to what we do. You have to be out there and willing to put yourself out there to the right people.
Yeah. Somebody actually, one of the questions was, what inspired the mentorship program that you guys have?
God, what didn't? Apostrophe is special. We're a woman-owned, minority-owned. We, our team is so incredible. In response to 2020, a lot of agents were rushing to be like, shit, like, we need to add more diversity to our roster. We don't have enough Black people on our roster, enough Asian people on our roster, enough women on our roster, enough LGBT representation. And everyone kind of scrambled to be like, shit, we were missing the point. And, Kelly, who runs Apostrophe, it was a different idea. It was, how do we give back? How do we help? How do we not be these gatekeepers? How do we share our love and information and knowledge? And the mentorship program became, hey, we're not going to, pick up artists right away to show that, hey, we can be part of the conversation, but like, let's give away our knowledge. Like, that's the best thing we can do. So the mentorship became, it's a 12-week program based on the business of photography. We take them through, how to build your website. Not like, you already have websites when people get in, but like how to make your website, your visual, your storefront, the place where people can go and see your vision, how to put together a pitch deck or a treatment. And we work through that. We take them through legal, and have our legal counsel on with them to talk to them about contracts, how to protect their own interests. We set them up, we do an editorial at the end of everything. So we're helping them with that. We, help set them up for success to complete this editorial that we then put into this virtual zine, our visuals department so beautifully designed, send it out, and we have them meet clients. And it really just our answer to how do we help our industry become a more inclusive, place. With our industry, the big thing is, and I talk to a lot of clients about this, diversity wasn't the issue in the sense that there was so many great talent out there. Inclusion and equity were the problems. Getting people included in the bids, getting the same fair pricing in the bids. Equity was a huge one. And that's something you had to tell people about, because we needed to have more transparent conversations about day rates, more transparent conversations about usage, what your time is worth, to make sure that you were valuing yourself properly and that people weren't taking advantage of you.
That's a good point that you bring up, because there's not a lot of discussions about what you should charge in terms of usage or your day rate. And obviously those things aren't, standard all across the board. They're going to be different levels of skill that are going to reflect different prices. But what are some of the things that photographers who are not rep by an agency and they're out there talking to clients on their own and they're negotiating a contract, what are some of the things that they should pay attention to or be privy to while going into that, into that negotiation?
Yeah. First things first, when someone reaches out to you for a job and they send you an NDA, make sure you're getting a mutual NDA. I always ask clients, like, do you have something to have a mutual? You are sharing your creative idea, you're sharing your estimate. You want to make sure that they're keeping that information confidential as well. So that would be the first thing. Just reading your contracts, having someone read your contracts. A lot of people are asked to work for hire, and this is a big one in our industry. It's not that work for hire is a no-go. We have to do it a lot these days, but knowing to ask for self-promotion rights is a huge one. Work begets work. And as emerging artists, you're only as good as your last job or your last test shoot. And we need to be able to share that and show that. And there are some clients who are like, well, sorry, you can't show this. And it's like, that's how I'm going to get my artists more work, is to show this cool thing they just shot for Puma, or show this cool thing they just shot for Amex. So
right.
Just knowing how to advocate for yourself. And yeah.
Generally with a work for hire, I would think you would want to ask for more money too, if they want to buy out.
Yeah, anytime you have a buyout or like a full use, you definitely want to ask for more money. I mean, here's the thing. I personally believe when someone wants to work with you, they're going to give you the information you need to position yourself in the right way. We bid on a lot of jobs, and I appreciate when art buyers or producers are transparent and say, hey, this is the budget we have, or it's going to go to the low bid, or hey, they're creatively leaning towards this person. But the more information you have, just the better. And if they really want to work with you, then they'll say, hey, JP, like your estimate's a little too high. Hey, your fees are not really fitting the structure of, where the other people are falling. So you can always kind of get a sense if someone wants to work with you, or if you're kind of like the third bid, or, so I work from a place of fear where I was too afraid to price my photographers at what I thought they were. And then I just kind of had to get over that and say, you know what? the worst thing they can say is no, or hey, we don't have it. And I always make sure that every estimate I send is, hey, this is a jumping off point for conversation. Happy to address numbers, run through them with you. Like, we make it known that we are people you can come back to and negotiate with.
Yeah, I think that's super important to stress the idea of negotiation, even in terms of contracts. I think it's important for photographers to know that because someone gave you a contract, that's still negotiable. If this company is truly intending to work with you, these things are, it's a back and forth. Do you have any other tips for negotiating contracts? Maybe more so rates than contracts.
Rates are, everyone's different. And every job, every vertical is a little different. So it's hard to structure your day rate. I mean, there are commercial photographers that are making 3,500 a day. There are commercial photographers that make 15K a day. I think is evaluating each job as it comes in, looking at the client that you're shooting for, doing a little bit of research of like, what is that client bringing in a year? What is their marketing budget? I look a lot, like I'll be like, okay, we're shooting for this like smaller drink brand. It looks really cool, but like, okay, what was their VC funding like? What was their series funding like? Clearly if they're making money, they have to spend some of it on marketing. And then I start, so I really I'm a little bit more analytical about it. I want to figure out, like, if I'm going to go shoot for Lululemon, I know they're making tons of money. They have the money to pay. If you're shooting for McDonald's, they have the money to pay. You do have to look at how they're spending their money. Like, obviously when influencers became a big thing, a large chunk of what became, what were photo budgets then were allotted in other places. So you're like, okay, well, God, they're paying this influencer campaign $25K. They're going to put maybe $300,000 towards this print campaign. The rest of it's going towards their broadcast. You just need to kind of figure out like what the spot, but then it also gets to a point where like I've established day rates from photographers. Them don't shoot like 70, then we figure out what's the usage. Is it a 1-year usage we can include? Is it something we want to tack on? The buyout where we're definitely tacking on a usage. So there's a method to the madness, but it's still, numbers are a bit arbitrary,
Okay, yeah, but it sounds like it starts with understanding who your client is. So making sure that you do the research and you come in fully equipped. Again, information is important. That's why we do what we're doing here at LR2 Studio. Just real quick, we're here with JP from Apostrophe Reps. She's a senior photo and motion. Wait, say that again. It's a senior
photo and motion rep at Apostrophe. I think
okay.
Because almost all of my photographers do motion to some extent. Some are full-blown directors as well. We've done some really great, online videos and broadcasts. We just did a broadcast commercial for Fitbit. So it has, how has photography changed? I just saw someone post about motion, and yet motion's involved in almost 90% of our campaigns at this point.
Right. So guys, make sure you go follow Apostrophe Reps. I don't know if JP wants people following her, but if you can find her thing, maybe try it, whatever. Her page is private, so don't be upset if you don't get accepted.
I always approve photographers. I love following your work. Don't take offense if I don't follow back. I save and like a lot of things.
JP is super busy. She's actually traveling right now. So again, super grateful for having you. We still have some more questions. Just real quick, John, you asked a question about a capability deck. I just want you to clarify that, if you can resend that, because it seems like it's a really good question. And then most people are asking how, this is like the number one question, obviously, how does an artist, photographer, whoever, how do they get represented? Like, how do they find representation? How should representation find them? That's
we're constantly looking.
Question.
We're constantly looking. We tell people, you have to reach out to reps. You also need to find the right roster. There are so many great rosters and that have, their own skill set. We tend to focus on, lifestyle, fashion, still life. But if you're, it depends what you're looking for, but reach out, just reach out. I know with us, you email representation@apostrophereps.com. We get together as a group and look once a month and see, who's out there. Be honest, right now, we're pretty stacked. We're not taking on anyone new at the time. But we're always looking and we're always starting conversations. There are a few people that, as we begin conversations, we work with off roster, get a vibe check of like, hey, do we get along? Do we have a symbiotic relationship going here? But yeah, just reach out. I mean, I'm the type of person and I have a thick skin as a rep. Like when I email people and I don't get replies back, like I've learned to be, resilient in that way. And I think you have to do that as a photographer. But I don't think there's anyone who's ever emailed me that I haven't responded to. And if I didn't, it was probably an accident. But I try to respond to everyone, thanking them for their time for reaching out, letting them know, hey, we're not, either accepting right now, or hey, love the work. We'd love to talk more and set up a call. But yeah, and don't take it personally. People, like, their inboxes get full and don't answer. And but everyone who reaches out to me, like I actually posted something a couple weeks ago where I was on set with Kendall Besant and I was talking to his lighting tech, and I just felt so inspired by the conversation I was having with him. And I posted later that afternoon and I was just like, I'm feeling really inspired. I want to have some conversations with other photographers and other artists, reach out to me. And I think like 5 or 6 people DM me. A few of them, I think, joined here today. And we just had incredible conversations because I'm not just like the one with the knowledge. Like I want to learn from you. Like I want to learn what, like, for you on your end, like what are the trends you're seeing? Like, how are you feeling when you talk to clients? What is the feedback you're getting? So I just I want to understand what, I think there's a mutual growth and a mutual learning that happens when photographers and reps or people who just love what we do come together. So I'm always welcoming those conversations.
Yeah, I can definitely vouch for JP because I cold emailed a few people about being on this segment, and she hit me back in like 15 minutes and was like, I would love to do this. And I've never spoken to her. I didn't really have much information. She definitely didn't know who I was, but she responded. So it's a numbers game. Like, make sure that you're coming with respect. You have a thought out idea. Give it to them so they don't have to ask any questions. They could kind of understand what's happening in that email, and then you'll get a response. But then sometimes you don't. Like there are a few people who I never heard back from, and that's okay because we right here, we got JP in the building. We in LR2 Studio. We doing an Ask a segment, Ask a Photo Agent, and we're locked in. If anybody has any more questions, Mark C just jumped on. He's represented by. So do you work with all of the artists, or are there specific artists that you have?
So the way we're structured is I'm responsible for like the day-to-day business of 5 of our artists, or 6. Mark, I jump in and out of. Mark's the bomb. You guys all need to go check the video that we just posted of him. But yes, we run the day-to-day business. I think the way we do things, I really love, because we all as like reps get to work with all different clients and we get to know our artists inside and out. So if someone comes and is like, hey, I want to work with Mark, they might work with me. But if they want to work with, Dawn, they're going to work with Andrew, or Julia, they'll work with Andrew, or, whoever else, like Jimmy, you're going to work with Kelly. Like, you get to meet everyone. So our team really shares a lot of love in that way. So that's, but I see Kendall on here and I see Mark. Kendall was actually part of our mentorship program and he was my mentee, and just from the jump, like Kendall just had something very special about his work. I loved his eye. He loved film. And, as someone who studied photography, I didn't really do much digital. Like I was still doing a lot of darkroom stuff. So like I have this deep love for film and for that process, and to meet someone who is younger and so involved in that medium still and understands the art and the craft, and like it's just every time where I'm on a call with Kendall and we have a creative play, like, hey, you think they'd be okay with us shooting film too?
Yeah.
Like, we can always try for it. But that's a beautiful thing. Like, photography is just such a beautiful medium.
I agree. So Kendall was you said he was a mentee, but did he come through the actual program that you guys have? Oh, that's really cool. Guys, make sure you go to Apostrophe Reps. Is this is like an ongoing thing?
So yeah, we just closed submissions for session 4. We haven't, so that's already closed. So, you'll have to keep your eye out for next year when we do it again. But yeah, Kendall was a mentee. Our goal is never that we're going to pick people up. That's not the point of the mentorship program. Although we do set them up with other reps, they talk to other reps. That's great. And some of them are in a place to get representation. Kendall was one of those, and we just, it was a good fit at the time for our roster. So it's I feel very lucky to get to work with some of these people. And others are now represented by other photographers, and it's just been an amazing program.
Okay. Guys, I just want to remind you real quick, follow LR2 Studio if you are not. We do things like this all the time, and we're continuously sharing information with you. If you have any questions, make sure to add them to the bottom right. There's a little question mark in a chat bubble. Click that. If you can, share this live right now. We still got a couple of questions left. Make sure you share this live so everybody can get the information. Don't hoard the information. Don't gatekeep the information. And, okay, so we're on IG Live right now. So it's fitting to ask, what roles do social media and online marketing play in promoting a photographer's work? And how do you help your clients leverage these platforms?
Such a big role. We're really lucky at Apostrophe because we have a visuals department that crushes that. But we also have, we just have a very proactive, tiered wheel of marketing that we do. So Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, all great places for you to be putting your Andre, who I just see just popped in here, is always posting his work to LinkedIn. I know he connects with people on there directly. We started doing some really cool TikToks and things like that. I have a love-hate relationship with social media, always have. But what I will say is when you are using it for the right reasons, when you're using it to promote your craft, when you're using it as, a real professional way of reaching an audience, there's something really cool about it. And I really I love when I get to connect with other people who are creative in that way. So yeah, we do our Instagram, we do TikToks, we do Reels. I mean, getting the work out there to as many people as possible is kind of the name of the game. But I think the big thing to remember is to stay, this is such a buzzword that I can't get around, but to stay authentic. Let your visual voice, I always had a problem between the terms, your brand and then who you are. Your brand should really be an extension of your personality.
Right.
If it's anything other than that, it's going to read as false. It's not going to be real. So you always want to be really careful that the brand you're curating is really an extension of just who you are as a person, because you are a human. You are not a brand. You are a human, but you want people to remember you and have that thing that makes them remember you. And that's where that brand idea comes in. It's kind of we just merge them together, but it's just for me, it's all about personality.
Got you. JP, go ahead.
Don't randomly follow people. Take it slow. Follow people you
said
work.
Don't randomly follow people?
I don't randomly follow creatives. I, especially if they're private or whatever, I go to people. My rule of thumb is follow people you've worked with, follow people that maybe you've reached out to, follow people who you really have, a connection or admiration for. I follow some photo editors, from the New York Times or from, some beauty magazines that I love, because I love the content they post. I want to see it in my feed. They're posting the covers they're shooting. They're posting their stories. I'm not as quick to follow people who are just posting their kids, because I can tell that that's a really personal place for them. And if that's a personal place, then that's not going to be the place for you to do business with them. That's going to be more of a LinkedIn contact. So be really intentional about who you follow and how you're communicating with them.
Really good advice. Really good advice. JP, let's see if you can kind of decipher this question. As an artist, should we be creating capabilities decks to our future clientele, or is that strategic strategy your agencies should be doing? Did you get that?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you don't have an agent, having a capabilities deck is great. It depends on what you're offering. I mean, we have a duo, the Voorhees, who they have a great capabilities deck because they have an immediate content, they have an incredible property. So for them to reach out to clients and share what their capabilities are is great. But if you're just a photographer, you are better off putting together a really solid PDF of work that you think is going to speak to that client, or a link, like an InDesign link of work that you think is going to speak to that client specifically, and send them something like that. That to be said, if you do have an agent, I mean, we have our hands in everything, at least where I work. So I want to see that capabilities deck. I want to know what you're sending out, and I want to know how I can either get a hold on that so I can send it out, if maybe we can improve upon it. Not every agency is structured like ours. Like I said, we have an incredible visuals department that we are so lucky to have, that makes us just like look beautiful. So I always want them to kind of see these things. So whatever we're sending out into the world feels like Apostrophe and feels like our artists.
Mhm. Just for the streets real quick, what is a capabilities deck to those who may not know?
So I guess I would explain a capabilities deck as an like a brochure for your business, basically. Like, hey, here are my images. If you have a studio, here's my studio. Here's an about me. Here's, the equipment we have. That's why I think it's very particular. There are some capability decks that you're putting together because you want to show off what you can do as a photographer and a director, perhaps, and you want to showcase that. But they're just not necessary for everyone. Like, I think it's more important, like as an agency, we have a capabilities deck because we have a production arm, so we have in-house producers that we can produce jobs. We have stylists, we have our photographers, our directors, the way we're structured. So as an agency, to have a capabilities deck of what we can offer to our clients, that's a little bit like how we use them, or more important for me.
Okay. As far as like new technologies or anything that you utilize to, help your artists or help your company, how do you use those, and then where do you go to find the newest, latest, greatest things to use?
I mean, new technologies, like I leave that to our artists a lot, but like obviously the big conversation right now is AI and how we're navigating that as an industry. I can't tout this enough, but like the Artist Management Association is so on top of all the trends that are happening in our industry. They're really working to unify our industry so we have a more standardized approach to our side of commercial representation. And I get a lot of my information from them. So go to the AMA. You can find them on Instagram and their website. It's just invaluable. But yeah, AI is a big one we're navigating, and figuring out how that's going to be used as a tool, how that's going to be used in campaigns. But things change so quickly. Like a few months ago, Darnell and I, he's our director of our visuals department, went to a conference on the metaverse and on NFTs, and then look at where that is now. Like, we were trying to figure out what are the media buys in the metaverse, and it's not going to be as big of a thing as we necessarily thought. So AI, I think, is something that it's a trend, perhaps. It's something that people are excited about and interested in, but I think I want to believe that there will always be humanity to some extent, and that people want something real and want a connection that nothing computer generated is going to give you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's a huge conflict of, copyright law and all of that you have to get into.
Yes. If anybody has any copyright questions that are not too deep, send those. Click the icon in the bottom right, and we will try to get to it. Let's hit another question. How has photography changed in this industry over the years? And do you see any trends emerging in the future besides video taking over everything?
Yeah, God, how hasn't it changed? I mean, it changes so much. The tools change. I don't know. I mean, I think trends I see coming, I don't know. It changes so rapidly. I don't know that there's any specific trend I see on the horizon. There's trends within the industry, within the photographic, if I talk to my boss, like there's a very big fashion trend. There's, how that's utilized in different verticals, or, just the way brands ebb and flow out of things. Like I remember when I became a rep back in like 2008, it was very much we got into this very like hipster lifestyle thing. And then every brand was doing that, and then you get kind of into this like candy coated sacred thing. So like, I think we fall in and out of visual trends. So I don't know what's next. I kind of keep an eye on you.
Do you think trends are created, or like are they recycled? Could someone come up with some totally new thing, or is there like a larger structure that determines what the trend is going to be?
No, I think every trend comes in and out for sure. And I think new things can be created when you see that person who has like a really awesome visual style and you're like, But I don't know, like I kind of like to buck trends, like I want people to speak to their own personal trend. Like that's what I think stops me. Like everyone's going to give you a different opinion on this. But when I look at, a photograph, or I look at a motion piece, like I'm not looking for something that looks like what everyone else is doing. I'm looking for something different.
Same.
Yeah.
I like trends, because then I'm like,
isn't working for them. But if you have a question, Philippe, you can ask. I don't think that thing was working.
Let me see. Yeah, if you could type in looks like we have a bad connection. Are we here? Is everyone here? Are we here? Are we here? Okay. Yeah, as far as trends, I like trends because I like to see what everybody's doing and then be like, I'm going to do something totally different than that.
Yeah.
Any challenges that photographers face? Maybe seeking funding for projects or grants, or do you help any of the artists on your roster get grants?
I don't deal a whole lot with that. I mean, again, the AMA might be a good resource for something like that. But, I think the saturation of our industry is always a little bit of an issue. And I think that's, something that photographers, to have longevity in their career, need to think about. There are so many photographers and artists out there, and so many ways to access being a photographer now. So.
Okay. And speaking of trends, just to go back, are you seeing any usage trends? Like, are there more buyouts, shorter usages, or do you see more or less of either?
I still think that depends on the industry. I see, if I'm talking about packaging, I'm seeing buyouts for things. If I'm talking, by the way, one note I will say to anyone is anything that is over 5 years, if someone says, oh, I want 5-year usage, that's a buyout. Think about how quickly trends and packaging changes, or styles change, hairstyles, makeup, clothes, anything over 5. I mean, even 3 years is like kind of pushing it for me, because of how quickly things change these days. But just be mindful of what people are asking for. But yeah, every industry is different. You're going to get buyouts on certain things that do have a more evergreen approach.
What advice would you give to a photographer who's just starting out?
Again, just network, be tenacious, keep creating work. Don't stop creating work. Like that is your job. If you are not, you have to structure yourself as a business person, as a photographer. So, you really need to, and I'm going to have to move with you in a minute because I think I need to recharge my phone. Which anyone who knows me knows that's a theme. But I would say keep shooting, keep working. When you're not working, research who your clients are. You want to be able to, speak to them intelligently. And we're plugged in now.
Boom. Do you have any advice on burnout and how to avoid that? Maybe some of your artists feel like they're overworked, or is it okay for them to say, I'm going to take 3 months off and go to Hawaii, or, do you guys pay for that? Or like, how do you support them when they're feeling burnt out?
You need to take breaks. This is a 24/7 business in a way, because you're an artist and you're constantly thinking about like, what you want to do next. And I think I saw Andre say it right there. Like, you're trying to be intentional with everything you do. So yeah, like, take time off, leave time for yourself. And I know that can be hard because you're trying to make ends meet. You're trying to, make money, but you have to leave yourself room to feel inspired and, refreshed and regenerated, because you're not going to create anything good if you are just constantly burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah. So Felipe's question was, how do you get picked by a brand, model, or agency out of a big pool of photographers if you aren't well known?
I think that goes back to creating something that that you can send to them. Like, research the people that you want to be working with, people that your work might align with, either now or that you think might align with them in the future, and reach out. Do it through LinkedIn if you want to be a little more frugal about it. Do it through, something like Bikini List or Agency Access. They have lists of creatives that you can license. But just reach out to people. You have to be proactive. You can't just rely on everyone finding you. Even on Instagram, for people who have, tons of followers, it's hard because there are so many people who have tons of followers. How do you have to be tenacious, kind of skate that line between being, you don't want to be like pushy, but you want to be proactive.
Definitely. And guys, there's more entrepreneurs and people starting their brands now than ever. And my motto is that you can't really sell something without a picture of it. So there's no shortage of clients out there. There's enough work. I don't think it's oversaturated, but just, you have to go out there and find these clients and be tenacious and hit the ground running, do the work basically, and you'll be all right.
Like, I like to follow a photo editor, and they do a really interesting segment on, what photographers make in this industry. And one of the really illuminated for me is that there are so many avenues and so many areas that even if you're not shooting big commercial jobs, ad agencies, or you're not shooting for smaller brands, or maybe you're doing weddings, or maybe you're doing whatever it is you're doing, there is a market out there. There are so many brands. You don't just stop. Don't compare yourself to other people. Don't compare yourself to, who's shooting other things. Like, look at that as inspiration. Like, hey, I see this campaign out there. That's what I want to be shooting. And think about that, and how can I create something like that? How do I show that sort of, imagery in my body of work?
Dope. And that brings up a good point, because I think you're talking about the Rob Haggard, a photo editor. Yeah, so guys, make sure you go follow a photo editor. This guy gives a lot of cool stuff. He does one segment where he talks about different mailers and promo items that are cool and different. So you can look at that and get an idea of if you're going to send out any marketing materials, just different ideas how to make your thing unique, make it different, make it something that people want to keep. And then they'll probably, give you a call to do some work. But he also now he's stepping into a world where he's showing what photographers have made over the past years, some of the things that they do. And it's really, really, really informational. I've shared some of this stuff on the stories, but make sure you go follow that page, A Photo Editor. Make sure you follow Apostrophe Reps. Make sure you follow LR2. Let's see if we have any other questions.
People in the comments, one of the biggest trends I've seen for motion are photographers shooting Super 8. Oh, interesting. That would be freaking rad. I see something else. Oh, Darnell's in here. Would love to hear more about being a photographer who also gets approached about being a director for motion and still projects. So yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about that then. A lot of our projects are 80% like stills and motion. And I think as photographers who are not doing motion yet, I think it's super important to start exploring that. We've been saying this for years. It's everything from motion work that is just capturing the moving image to motion work that has voiceover. We're not asking necessarily for you to be someone who's dealing with, on-set audio and all of that kind of stuff. But you have to look at the world we're in and how motion is a huge component of that everywhere. Everything is moving all of the time. So it's something as simple as, a brand, an athletic brand, wanting to take a still shot of someone lifting a kettlebell to someone who's, hey, we actually want to get, you know, the motion aspect of that too. So a lot of our photographers align themselves with DPs. So you have a director of photography that you work with, and that has always been, you know, our approach. So, you know, you're able to kind of focus on the stills, you're able to direct the motion work, you know, and we structure the crew to kind of support that. But I think it's super important to play around with it and then align yourself with your team. You got to find yourself, you know, a good motion team, grips, gaffers, people who can support that side. And, you know, if you don't have that, also know that there are incredible production companies out there that you can align with, who can help that out. Like, you know, Caravan Club is our sister company. They're incredible. They handle a lot of our projects that have both stills and motion. So shout out to them, because, you know, they also know people and can surround you with the right people and connect you with the right people if there's a campaign that calls for that.
Okay. It looks like the home base has a question for you. Apostrophe Reps has asked a question. They said there are a lot of questions these days as to the value of having a rep. Can you talk about why someone would want to be represented? Also, you are awesome, and I agree.
Yeah, I mean, we're your business partners. We look out for your best interest. You know, there's a benefit to not having to step into the business side of the conversation and to keep it really creative on your end. So from the time something comes in, again, like, we are not just estimating and negotiating your jobs and reading your contracts and making sure that that portion is taken care of, but we're your strategic partner. You know, I know we're a very strategic agency. You know, we look at the big picture and have game plans for all of our artists. So we understand you're the big picture of your career. Like, you know, we're trying to, you know, a lot of artists, I think, work in this vacuum by themselves or with other artists. And when you take someone who has the business mindset for this industry and you have this like really great symbiotic relationship, it takes things to the next level. You know, it's we're looking at how to grow your business too, you know, and doing that together. So yeah, we look out for each other. Like, one, you know, has to be the right fit though. I think there's so many benefits to it. People, you know, you can't just look at it as like, oh, they take commission. Like, we do a lot of work, a lot of estimating, a lot of marketing, a lot of promotion, you know, a lot of, you know, like, I talk to my photographers 3-4 times a week, whether there's a job or not.
Yeah. It's all, I mean, you're in a sense like investing into these artists' careers as much as they are by teaming up with you guys. I think it's really the partnership and a business partner. I think that's really reflective of what the actual relationship is. And I'm glad we're able to shed some light on that, because I think people do have a tendency to look at agencies as like a hand in your pocket without realizing what they're doing to help generate more than just income for you, but like buzz and shaping your career, shaping your mindset, and you're helping you build your aesthetic, and a lot goes into it. So I think that's good to be able to see. Let's do one more question. Guys, also, JP has agreed to, if you have any more questions after this live has ended, make sure to leave them. I'm going to post a recap video. And if you leave some of the questions in there, she's agreed to, over the next couple of days, when she has a moment, to answer some of those questions. So don't worry about if you didn't have anything answered. A lot of questions that are coming in are stuff that we already talked about earlier. So on the replay, you'll be able to catch it and then ask some more questions. The last question that I would like to ask before we go is, looking back, if you could ask the earlier version of yourself a question, what would it be? So you now asking the earlier version of yourself a question.
What's going to make you happy every day when you wake up? I'm really lucky. I said this earlier, but like, my career is an extension of who I am. You know, I love art. I love photography. I love the medium, and I knew I wanted to be part of it some way, you know? And I know not everyone has the luxury or the privilege to wake up every day and go to a job they love, you know? So I would just say, like, I wish I asked myself earlier, like, what would make you happy? Because I think I tried. I mean, I'm lucky that I've been in this industry for a long time, but I never thought of it that way. I never thought of it like what would make me, you know, now I realize like that's something I want to ask myself every day is like, what's going to make me happy today? I get to go to my
Beautiful.
work and I love that. I get to go be with my dog. I love that. You know, it's, yeah, just what's going to make you happy?
Yeah, I really believe that like everyone should do what they love to do and nothing else. And it sounds like oversimplification, but like I really do think it is that easy. And the world would be so much of a better place. Like if I called someone at customer service who'd love to do customer service and they could like help me with my broken television and everything works out wonderfully versus getting somebody who hates their job. They only doing it because they need a check and then they make my day miserable and then I make someone else's miserable. So we transferring the good energy. I want to thank you again, JP, for coming through. Guys, thank you. Shout out to yourselves. If you're fasting, it's only a little bit more time before you get to eat again. So shout out to you for spending some time with us during that. Really great questions from everyone. Again, we're going to post a recap on the LR2 page. So make sure you're following LR2. Also follow Apostrophe Reps. And if you can find JP's page, maybe try to give her a follow. Thank you so much for coming, guys, and we'll see you next time. Hopefully, we try to do at least one of these every month. So stay tuned for the next one. Let me know in the comments what other types of industry professionals you want to have, and I will see you soon. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks, JP.
You're welcome. Talk to you soon.